evening, and welcome to the October 15th, 2014 Board of Selectmen meeting. Could I please have, we need a vote for the approval of minutes from September 29th, 2014?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moved by Betsy, seconded by Tiz. Is anyone, public participation?
Yes, we have one, Madam Chairman.
John, Tracy Vincent?
Tracy Vincent.
If you could come up to the microphones, please.
Hi, my name is Tracy Vincent, and I'm a transplant from the DC area to Wakefield 2 months ago. I had a stroke 7.5 years ago, and I'm glad that you have selected me for the disability thing. I went to the first meeting like 2 weeks ago. So anyway, I just really am I love Wakefield.
You're not alone.
And I just wanted to say welcome to the, thanks for believing in me. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
Tracy.
And that moves us very nicely into our next.
She was awfully sure the vote was going to be there.
Exactly.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Tracy J. Vincent to the Commission on Disabilities.
I'll second that.
Moved by Betsy, seconded by Pat. All in favor?
Aye.
Confirmed. Thank you very much. And welcome.
Congratulations.
Make sure she gets sworn. I'll be sending her a letter. We'll be sending you a letter with your approval, and just make sure you get sworn in by the town clerk. But if you have any questions, you come up and ask us in the office, okay? Thank you.
Next on the agenda, item 4A, we have a request from Sharon Gilly, Director of the Lucius B. Library, to accept and expend a gift or gifts in the amount of $468.95 from various donors with thanks.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Betsy, seconded by Paul. All in favor?
Aye.
We have a second request from Sharon Gilly, Director of the BB Library, to accept and expend a gift in the amount of $416 from various donors with thanks.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Betsy, seconded by Phyllis. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I have a request from Maureen Gallagher, Executive Director of the Massachusetts Down Syndrome Congress, for a donation of up to $1,000 for a tree planting or bench with a plaque along the Buddy Walk route. And I send this to Steve for a little explanation.
Yes, Ms. Gallagher, I think there might be a letter in your packet from
There
them.
is.
Very grateful for what's happened, the way the town has embraced the Down Syndrome Congress and the walk that they have. Unfortunately, there were a couple of people that had passed away, and they were thinking of a way to honor them. I would suggest that if the board is so inclined to accept that any motion be made that with the approval of the DPW for location of either item.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Pat, seconded by Betsy. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And 4D, we have one vote for points. So a request from the Event Planning Committee regarding holiday stroll as follows. And Paul, would you like me to go through these, or would you like to speak to them first?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. These are the annual requests prior to any event that we have. We are following the same shutdown as we did for the Italian Festival, which seemed to work out well with the merchants, but some of the requests have changed due to the event also. Other than that.
Excellent. So we need a vote on 3 points. To conduct the holiday stroll on December 6th, 2014, between the hours of 1 and 7, with the start of the parade at the Civic Center at 2:45, to close Main Street to traffic from Yale Avenue to Richard Avenue, Lincoln Street, and to close Albion Street to traffic from Main Street to North Ave. And the third point is to utilize the area surrounding the Civic Center and part of Armory Street at the commencement of the parade. There's a rolling shutdown from Civic Center to Lincoln starting at 3, and Lincoln Street parking lot for stroll activities if needed.
Move to deny.
It's well within your right, ma'am.
So moved.
Moved by Betsy,
So moved.
So I'll second that.
seconded by
To deny or
Tiz.
to approve?
To approve.
All
On
in
the second
favor?
motion she made.
To approve the 3 points. Any discussion?
It was
was moved by the Grinch.
Thank you.
Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Any opposed?
So,
You know,
want to go right to you?
Sure.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the financial update for fiscal year 2014 and 2015, and I am handing off to our town administrator to present.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. And as warned at our last meeting, I told you I'd be financial update. And if you have any questions, please stop me at any time. I do have a PowerPoint, so I hope that the people at home can follow this. And we do have to thank, although I can put the pros in here and the numbers, I'm not great graphically. So I did hire an assistant to handle that. And that would be, and I had to go out of state to find an assistant, and that would be Sherry's son Brandon, who's a senior at Nashua High, who gathered some of the graphics for me. So give credit where credit is due. And hopefully I can even work the clicker. So anyways, what we do is we talk about where did we end last fiscal year and where do we see the current fiscal year we are in going. And we need to actually go back in time, really almost a year, from July 1st, 2013, and at that point, the state certified our free cash at a little over $7 million. And that was a really good number. I was very pleased with this, and I think the board should be very pleased with this. This is a far cry about where we had been just 4 or 5 years ago, and this board worked very hard to make sure that we had adequate reserves, and that helped us in not only our bond ratings, and it really helps me sleep at night that if something happens, we're okay to go forward. And at the November 13, 2013 town meeting, we actually used some of these funds in free cash, as we should, and as was voted at town meeting. And we used $250,000 to put in our stabilization fund, kind of moving money from your checking to your savings account, or from your checking to a money market account. It's stabilization requires 2/3 to go in, 2/3 to go out. It's like having a little bit more of a CD money there. We moved $250 to debt service to pay down some of our bonds a little bit quicker. $50,000 to sidewalks and roadways. Over the last few years, this board has been adamant, putting more money into our roads and sidewalks on top of Chapter 90, which we've done, and we did in the Springtown meeting as well. We $57,000 to finish the scanning of vital records at the town clerk's office. $110,000 for the Greenwood boiler that's seized, okay? Again, all capital items or savings items. In May of 2014, we utilized $740,000 for the extra period. Every 7-8 years ago, because of timing, we have an extra pay period in a fiscal year, and we have to cover that. And the May 2014 town meeting also voted to take $330,000 out of free cash to put in a special education, specialization stabilization fund to help with some of the peaks and valleys that the school department gets hit if there is a special ed child that moves in that requires a lot of services. I think that you want to note when you look at all these is that we're all for reserves or capital and weren't necessarily recurring items, okay? So I think that speaks well of the board and what we do with our free cash. So at the end of 2014, and again, I have to tell you that this is an estimated number. When you subtract those items out that we used free cash from, a little over $5 million in free cash at the close of business when we closed the books on June 30th. Still pretty good. Still very good under recent years. And still within our policy. All that this board a few years ago actually established a policy of where we should be with free cash. Free cash should be between 3% and 8% of our operating budget. But we always need to replenish this. So the question remains is how do we replenish free cash? And it comes in two ways. It comes in returns from our departments on their budgets, or it comes from a surplus in projected revenue. And when you add those things up at the end of the year, that gives us our new number. So let's see, how did we end the year and where did those things go? In your package, you have a report about how the departments did in fiscal year 2014. And I'm very proud of the departments. Our department heads work very hard. They really try to rub the nickels together to create a quarter. and I think they get the most that they can out of all of their personnel and what they do. And each general area of department did return money to the town. General government, which is, think of general government as your administrative offices at the town hall. They returned almost a little over $82,000. Protections of persons and property, your police, fire, your building inspector returned $37,000. Human services, and the key on this one is the, think of the senior center, Council on Aging, they returned $29,000 to the town. Public Works, $8,500. Education, including the library, $3,900. Unclassified, and we go through our looks of unclassified, these are items that really aren't a department, but we do, might be in insurances and things like that. They returned $66,000. Benefits, and this is the salary portion of benefits, about $1,300. And group insurance, again, still taking the benefits of moving into the GIC, returned over $750,000 to the town, total of $981. Now, in group insurance, people migrate to cheaper insurance plans that cost us money. We have to budget as if, all these employees get insurance. But where some of them migrate to cheaper plans, we get a savings there. Or, people that are on Medicare or through the town are no longer on it for various reasons. And, or people leave and are replaced by people that don't have insurance. So all of this takes, we run all these numbers at the end of the year, come up with an accounting that Kevin Gill works very hard on, and he and I consult on it. So our departments returned a little over $980,000 to the town, which I think really speaks well of them. It's a good place to stop. Are there any questions for anybody on the board at this time?
Well, you haven't hit capital yet, but
No, haven't hit capital yet. Capital, we don't return money, we spend that.
well, just in general, Steve, I applaud us trying to save money, but a point does it, looking at playing the devil's advocate, can we do a better job of budgeting? But if we're getting $36,000 back from the police and fire, should we budget a little less next year, or?
Well, a lot of it depends upon, hiring and personnel and overtime and things like that. I'm pretty comfortable that in a $3 or $4 million budget, and actually between, this is $37,000 between all of them, so let's call that an $8 million budget. 37 was returned, that's like a 99% budget, that's pretty good.
Fair enough.
Over there. I'd hate to get it any closer than that. So how do we, so that was great with what our departments did, and I appreciate that. So another way that we replenish free cash is when revenues exceed forecast. And I'm really looking at mainly recurring revenues here. We often have revenues that aren't recurring. Someone pays up on a tax title lien. We get from FEMA because of a snowstorm. I kind of discount those, although it adds to free cash, I discount that in my analysis going forward because I can't count on that all the time. But actual revenues that are recurring revenues in 2014, fiscal year 2014, was about $6.4 million. And I will tell you that I am very conservative on this. I get, could I do a better job here? Yes, I could be less conservative. Teased by the Finance Committee all the time. In fact, I lost a dinner with one Finance Committee member over where this number would come in, and that's okay. I'm happy to do it. We came in about $1 million more than forecasted revenue. Some of that may be one time. We don't know, are people going to continue to pull building permits? We continue to get a lot of money in excise taxes on cars. People may stop buying new cars because of the economy. That happened a few years ago. That will lower our excise tax, and that's a big part of our balance here. So I like the fact that we're a little conservative. We're actually going to, in the coming years, kind of hone that money in to take Selectman Glynn's comment to narrow that gap a little bit. And the other issue is that by having our revenues, not taxes, exceed our forecast, I think this board needs to remember that although we budget that all of our real estate taxes or personal property taxes are collected, all of them aren't. There are people that can't or won't or don't pay their taxes. So even a 1% drop in people paying their taxes adds up to about $600,000, about $60 million in taxes that we collect. So a little conservative in here adds a little bit of a cushion. Kathy Kelly does a great job collecting taxes. She collects about 98.6% of the taxes come in every year. It's amazing when you compare communities. She does a great job. But 1% of that would be is a lot of money. So at the year end, and these are unofficial numbers, the state has not come in and done their audit of us yet. This is where Kevin and I feel we're going to be at year end. The Department of Revenue will be in this week to actually go through and certify the numbers or get close to certifying them. But at year end, when all it shuffles out, I think our free cash is going to be around $8.5 million, and our stabilization will be around $2 million. So I am very confident that those numbers are going to be there. A couple of other things that the Department of Revenue will look at that this board does not have direct oversight over is the MLD. Although we don't pay any of their bills, it passes through the town accounts. So anything that's going at the light department does have somewhat of effect here. So what I would like this board to talk about and think about is that, we did adopt a fine policy a few years ago. And we as a board discussed that our stabilization fund should be a minimum of 3% of our operating budget. Using an operating budget of around 80 million, when you add everything in, be around 2.4. Our current amount is 2.8. And I think you can see over the years where our stabilization fund has gone, one of our bigger accounts. It is becoming a bigger percent of our budget and a bigger balance. After in the early 2000s when stabilization fund was used, we've kind of bumped along, and now we've gone up on that factor. So that's getting very comfortable. Free cash, the same thing. Our free cash should be between 2% and 3% of our operating budgets. Policy would be a minimum of 6%. We're a current amount of 8.5. So we are doing really well in our reserves, and I'm very grateful for that. And that brings us to the next item on our agenda when we get there will be the warrant. What happened with the warrant at this November town meeting? That's a time when we can actually look at utilizing some of this money. And we have 2 contracts in front of us, although that does not come out of police and fire, that does not come out of free cash and will not come out of free cash. And we're not ready to go forward. This is an estimate of where we would be with both of those. The feasibility study on the high school is the school committee is going forward with that feasibility study. The feasibility study on the elementary schools, the school committee has decided not to go forward on that, so that will not be an article at town meeting. They decided that last night after I had uploaded it here at WCAT, so that's still up there. One thing that will be suggested through the capital planning committee is a computer upgrade of the core network. And this was a upgrade that would be happening in 2016 because of some of the initiatives that the superintendent has put forth, that bring your own device to the high school, the one-to-one peer group of computers at the middle school and the high school as well. We need to upgrade that core for a lot of reasons, for safety and for things acting as the way they should over there. Item number 6 here, which I think that will be near and dear to Selectman Dinoco's heart. There are 5 traffic light signals at the Salem and Montrose corridor there. And those signals, if they could be made adaptive signals, will help with the flow of traffic better. So if there isn't someone coming off the highway, those lights will continue to go green. I will also tell you that I was in contact with our representative at the Mass Business Development today, who I've talked with a lot through any TIF programs, things like that we've been looking at. He has actually heard from some of the companies in Wakefield. There is tough getting off the exit ramp and into their place in the morning. He is going to put some pressure on Mass Highway, as we've been doing, to try to get some money out of Mass Highway to cover that, because they should be participating in that. So we're trying. I'm giving you a worst-case scenario here. Item number 7, cemetery expansion. This is a capital item that has been on the capital list for many years. We don't seem to get to it, and maybe it's kind of foolishly that we haven't got to it, because by 1,000 graves at Forest Glade Cemetery, and you sell the graves for $500 a grave, that's $500,000. So this actually replenishes itself, and we are actually running out of room at Forest Glade, so that's something that capital planning is going to look at as well. And every year when we go into town meeting, we also talk about whether or not we're going to use any free cash to balance the current budget. I'm going to suggest that we use $350,000 to balance the budget, and that is about exactly what the snow draft was for last fiscal year. That's the one item that we put onto the next fiscal year. It actually robs money from other budgets, a way of looking at it. So by using the free cash to that, we're allowed to use some of that money in the other budgets. So when all is said and done, if all those were to pass town meeting, we would end up town meeting in November with a very healthy free cash position of around $7.25 or $7.3 million. I'm very pleased to have between almost $10 million in reserves. I don't think there's, in a town that funds OPEB, that others don't, that is funding our retirement schedule aggressively. I'm very pleased with that. And it got me thinking that, and here's our free cash over the years. You can see how the last few years, that has really ratcheted up. I don't expect there to see those big increases in years to come. I just don't see that happening. I think that we'll get better in budgeting. I don't think we're gonna see the big influx of free cash from the insurance anymore. And I also think that level is where we should be. We needed to get to a point, but I think we can level that out and still be very successful and very very well run. So it got me thinking about, and really, this probably goes right back to Selectman Glenn's question earlier, is that when you think of the town of Wakefield enterprise, and you think of it as a business, is that you want to think about what risk, what appetite for risk do we have as a town? And I mean appetite for risk. What I'm going to do, a series over the next few weeks with this board and with the finance committee, is run through some stress tests. And often when you have a business, you run through these stress tests. What happens if state aid plummets? What happens if the Federal Affordable Care Act creates a lot of differences in how things are funded? And why I say that is if it puts more burden on the state may pass that on to the cities and towns. They're pretty good about doing that. What happens if local receipts go down? What happens if those car receipts go down? That's a lot of it, the excise taxes. What happens if we don't enjoy the new growth that we have enjoyed of over $1 million a year? We've had a great run in that. That may not happen every year. And at the end of that, to get together with the Board of Selectmen and really create what is called in the business world a risk appetite statement. And to think about how we want to go forward. Do we want to take money out of free cash and fund maybe initiatives, whether it be police, fire, education, and phase those in over time using some of this free cash that we have so that burden doesn't go on the tax levy in 1 year and it stops other programs. I think it's an exciting time. It's what the business world does. I think it's exciting for us to look at that and to, as a community, come together and decide how we want to go forward. So I do appreciate it. I talked a little bit longer than I had anticipated, but Madam Chair, I'll open it for any questions at this point.
Steve, fantastic job. We're definitely headed in the right, just 180 degrees from where we were about 7 years ago. And you deserve a lot of credit, a lot of fiscal responsibility and setting policies in place, and we're seeing the results of that now. I think that the town is headed in the right direction in a lot of ways. That being said, your point, we can always continue improving. I'm just looking at the capital for this year. It looks like we budgeted just over $1 million, and we're giving back a $250,000.
Capital?
Yeah.
What are you looking at?
It was in, it shows in, it looks like in buildings, we gave back $195,000.
Are you on the report?
Just curious if things came in under budget or page,
Tell me
let me see, page 9 on the financial report.
Page 9. Okay. Well, that was encumbered, $192,000, so those are projects that didn't get completed and completely done in.
So it's accrued.
So it's accrued against it, be done next year.
I figured as much.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't.
No, not at all. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but.
No, no. that's fine.
I'd like to see, you know, along with your risk assessment, I think that's important to go through that exercise. Personally, I'd like to see the capital amount. We need to continue investing in infrastructure, roads, sidewalks, you know. The cemetery one is another great example, but I think that the capital planning group has a tier 1 and a tier 2 of projects. We should take a long, hard look at that and continue, you know. We're seeing a lot of the infrastructure around town get upgraded. You know, 25 years from now, people will be saying, you know, Wakefield did its homework, they did what they were supposed to do during, you know. And you see it in other cities and towns where bridges crumbling. You see it in Boston with a bridge. They have mental health facility can't get to because
Yeah, I
nobody
know.
did their due diligence. So I think we should invest more in that. And to your point about, this is not a business, this is a municipality, and it's you know, it's a town with citizens. But to your point about being run like a business, we also give dividends back to the shareholders, and I'd be in favor of, if we did that before in the form of not raising as much as we could have, and I'd be in favor of in the future if that were up for debate.
That certainly could be part of the debate.
Betsy?
Yes, congratulations, Steve. I would also like to congratulate your department heads and your managers, because I know that you work with them very closely and that they stay within their budget. And the fact that they gave some back that they didn't use, they could have used that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, let's face it. But I think you trust them enough, and I certainly trust them enough to, when they turn the money back in, use what they need, and that's the end of it. I think one of the things, these are all, as you say, they're very risky. We don't know from one end of the year to the next
Right.
what we're gonna get. And I would love to see more, I know we don't have a full-time grant writer. I know that was something I've always wanted to have, but one doesn't always get what one wants in this life. And I think we should really pursue any grants in any of these areas. I like the idea that you're gonna go after Mass Highway for, over in the Montrose area. And if work on 128 is cramming things up because people are coming off, and that's what they do naturally, to get a move on. But the only thing is the congestion is terrible over there. But I think we should start looking for grants in any way possible. There's money out there. And if it takes time to do it, I think it's time well invested, and somebody's gonna get them. So why not us? You know, and, but congratulations to you, as well as to your department heads and your managers.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you, Manager. Stephen, great report. Once again, you've shown us that you do your homework and present a very good forecast for the future. I'm going to echo both with Pat and with Betsy. The road improvements have always been something that I've talked about. Montrose, Salem Street is one of them. Downtown is another. If we can put together a package to move both of those forward, that'd be great. Contacting Mass Highway, definitely take the load off of us and have it go back onto them is another thing. One quick question, and I don't want to put you on the spot either. Reoccurring businesses, reoccurring revenue, business licenses. Have you seen any uptick with that at all in regards to us trying to put that policy in place where actually going and making them resubmit for their licenses again? And we had discussed that.
Right, no, I know.
Something for for thought to dig
just trying
into.
to
I mean,
find
I
it.
don't want to put you on the spot now, Steve, but it was just something that as you were talking about.
There has been an uptick, probably not as much as you'd like or as much as I'd like, but that's something we do need to work on, so I agree with you.
It's just another source of something that's supposed to be collected that if it's not, it's just lost revenue.
Yeah.
So if you can go that route, again, I think that the roads and any type of improvement, that would be fabulous.
Right.
Thank you.
On the roads, and I agree with you on the roads, we need to do way more on the roads, and there are a lot of roads on the list to be completed. Unfortunately, we often have to wait for utilities to be done which slows things down tremendously. Because we're not, this happened a few years ago, I think it was Nahant Street, actually. We repaved Nahant Street, and then a year later, there was utility cut, and there's nothing that kills roads more than a utility cut.
Yes.
So that's something that we really try to work together to make sure that that gets done a little quicker, and we need to do a better job there, I agree. The other thing that happens on the roads is that, and it's kind of a funding mechanism where the legislature passes money for Chapter 90. And fortunately, what happens is that the governor doesn't release it until late in the season. And when it gets released late in the season, cities and towns are scrambling to get roads done, because you're not gonna be paving after another month from now. In fact,
That's right.
it's kind of a crapshoot for the next few weeks. You don't know what's gonna happen. But when that happens is, all of the contractors come in and they get the state jobs because they're easier. Think about how much easier it is to pave, a state road, and you don't have got to worry about, who cares? No one's gonna complain, and just go out and do it. So that causes some issues with us actually getting the contracts and getting it done. So we see a big backlog, which means it gets done, it just gets delayed, and it gets very frustrating. So I see it, and I think this board has been great about putting money into more roads, and perhaps, we've been increasing that by 200, 250 a year. As we look at our assessment we want to do, I'd like to see more. So I would agree with that.
Thank you. Madam Chairman, one thing that it just dawned on me when you were mentioning fees and everything, for a long time, this board did not raise any of the fees, very common fees. And then all of a sudden, we had to just jump, and it was a tremendous leap, I thought. We had to do it. Do you have anything in mind as to, from the last time that we did it, and I'm not talking about astronomical increases, but that we can keep pace with what is needed in the society under which they are working and under which they are operating? And I'm not trying to stick it to
Right.
people, I don't mean it that way, but I don't want to have this board in a few years, if they haven't raised any of the things in the past 5 or 6 years, to all of a sudden try to catch up, because then it hurts more.
No, I know, and that, one area that we look at this constantly is in the, actually in the building area.
That's
Because
my
it's not
point.
just the
Right.
permit fee, but it's the cost per square footage of what's being done and how you value that.
This is my point,
Yeah.
and I think years ago, we said it was $200 a square foot, then
Yeah.
it went to something else a square foot, and all of a sudden, whack, these people.
You can't take a huge jump, I agree.
No, you can't, and we did that, and I think it hurt some of them. Worked it out, because you build it into the price, but still, you feel a little bit miserable about doing such things. Thank you.
Do you need a motion to accept the,
I just want to say that you can certainly take that motion, Madam Chair, but remember, this board has taken, pat yourself, because you have done what needs to be done. You've taken tough votes, you've moved into the GIC, not the most popular thing, it really saved the town. You've put more money into capital, you've done all those things and adopted mission-specific changes in police and fire and when times got better, you returned the fire prevention officer, the school resource officers. This board has done the tough things, so I think you ought to be commended. And moved for OPEB, would you? But I think it made a great difference, so you guys did a great job.
I move that we accept the report issued by the town administrator.
Second that.
Moved by Pat, second by Tiz, all in favor?
Aye.
Now moving to the acceptance of the town meeting warrant. Steve, do you need this?
I can do whatever you want. You have it in your packet. Why don't you run through each item, so you can, or,
My packet's frozen.
that's okay.
So, we have 14 articles, but there's gonna
Actually,
be 13?
13, yeah, lucky 13,
Okay,
yeah.
that's it, I was born on the 13th, it's lucky.
One day.
So, Article 1, just read these.
Yes, our Article 1 is the annual financial report that's done at the fall town meeting.
And Article 2 is, are we, the
The-
police?
The police, Article 2, 3, and 4 are the police and fire contracts. They are on the warrant in case we went on them between now and town meeting. If not, they'll be indefinitely postponed. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting closer.
Article 5, we've talked a little bit about, is see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Assessors to use such cash. Oh, we can talk
Free
about that
cash,
later.
yeah.
Free cash. Free cash as maybe in the treasury.
To balance the budget. This was that 350,000 we talked about there, to balance the budget.
Article 6.
Article 6, that's Tom Mullen's article. Article 6, going for the special legislation for the
Oh, that's
Stark
right.
Ave issue that this board
Right.
worked hard on with the neighbors and what have you.
Article 7,
High school feasibility.
the high school feasibility study that we heard from
Yep.
a couple of meetings, last meeting. You talked about it today. Article 8 is the Forest Glade
Forest Glade
Cemetery, expanding that.
expansion, yep.
Article 9.
Article 8 is the
School.
No, that's gone.
No.
The green- That's gone. You're looking at the old one. Remember, they just voted last night.
See, the chair has the newest one.
Yeah.
Rest of us.
Sorry.
Go line up.
So that we're taking out the feasibility study for the elementary schools.
Right.
That's not gonna be on the warrant.
What is this Article 8? This isn't about the
That, the Greenwood,
No.
the school committee voted
That's that-
not to go forward with that last night.
Okay, good.
Okay.
That's good.
So Article 8 is now the expansion of the Forest Glade Cemetery, putting some
Okay.
money into that.
Yeah.
Article 9 is the installation of an adaptive traffic light in the Montrose area, where you mentioned might make the traffic flow better. Article 10 is the core IT network services, the 250,000, to appropriate that, to upgrade that. Article 11,
Article 11 is a board has done in the past. In the event that the contracts for the police and fire aren't ready, that we actually designate some money in a collective bargaining agreement article, so it's there and we could draw from it later on. I think it's good budgeting, and we did that a few years ago at the suggestion of the board, and that's there as a stopgap in case those aren't ready.
Article 12 is a citizen petition to see if the town will vote to amend Article 17, Section 190-103 of the Wakefield zoning bylaws, the assisted living facility bylaw, by adding to the end of the second full sentence the following: provided, however, notwithstanding any other provision of this bylaw to the contrary, that no such special permit or any other permit may be granted which would provide for a maximum height of a building of more than 30 feet. So this, if voted upon, goes to the planning board.
Right. Our next item on the agenda will be to refer that to the planning board, and then it's on the signatures notified by the town clerk. According to our charter, this does go on the warrant for town meeting.
And Article 13 is to see if the town will vote to accept the report of the Permanent Building Committee regarding the Galvin Middle School as a report of the progress of that school.
Perfect.
All right, those are the articles.
Move to accept the warrant as presented.
second.
Moved by Betsy, seconded by Paul. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next item is a request from the town administrator to transfer $1 million from the.
you want to do that one first.
No, which one?
G.
Oh, G, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Sorry about that. Sorry. G is to refer the zoning article that was just mentioned, to amend section 190-103, the assisted living facility, to the planning board.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Betsy, seconded by Tiz. All in favor?
Aye.
The next request from town administrator to transfer $1 million from the general fund to the debt service capital needs account. Steve?
Yes, we do this every year, and you may recall that years ago, a long time ago, the town got special legislation that $1 million comes right off the top of the tax levy to the debt service fund to cover our debts for, the public safety building, the schools and what have you. That's already been done. However, transfer from the money from the general fund to the debt service still needs a vote of the selectmen to get there. So I'd ask for positive action there.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Betsy, seconded by Paul. All in favor?
Aye.
License permits and approvals. The first item on that agenda is a request from Caporale's Two Liquors for a change of Sunday hours.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Phyllis, seconded by Betsy. Any discussion?
Abstain.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And one abstention. Second, a request from John Cadman of Wakefield Auto Repair for Class 2 dealer's license. And Steve, you have some information on this.
Yes, the board may recall that there were some issues at this property a few years ago, and the board decided not to renew the license. This was not an issue of not having a bond or anything like that. This was an issue of some employees, I think, that were causing some problems with the neighbors. Police were out there and what have you, and this board decided not to renew the license. The owner of the business has come in, has met with me. I've spoken to the police chief. We've had no issues over there. The perpetrators there who were causing the problems are no longer employed and working on site. I myself feel that, this is a part of, this guy has an auto body shop, and this is part of his hopefully expanded business to, go and do the, be able to go to the auctions and what have you. In talking with the police chief, I would recommend that we do approve this as a new license, which means that this gentleman will have to get fingerprinted, which is our new policy, and, of course, get bonded. We've talked about that at our last meeting.
Approval.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, just, Steve, if memory serves me, there were some serious allegations.
There were serious
Yeah,
allegations,
right.
and those people are gone. I've talked with Chief Smith, and he feels that, they'll be monitored, and if there's a problem,
They'll
we'll
come back to
we'll
us.
come back to us, yeah.
Okay.
Is this the same owner though, Steve?
Same owner, yeah. He got rid of the staff that was causing the problems, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item number 6 is, we simply need our
Just
signatures
signatures, yeah.
on
I don't know if
the
that's
state
gone
election
around
warrant.
Has Sherry sent that around?
Sherry, have you sent the warrant around for our signatures?
Yes, you're all set.
Yeah, signed it. There you go.
When did I sign?
You walked in late, I guess. I don't know.
I didn't sign.
No.
Stamp.
Oh, oh, okay.
Welcome to the 21st century.
Perfect. Thank you, Sherry. Okay, that's it for the items on the agenda. Any comments? Town council?
Nothing, thanks.
Phyllis?
Yes, I do. I'm asking Town Administrator Mayo and the rest of the Board of Selectmen if at our next meeting, we could put on our, another trash issue, okay? I think it's very important, and I would like to have a public hearing. This trash that we have now is entirely new. It's a whole new system. And besides the several people that have approached me, I feel the same way, that there are some issues that have to be taken care of between dumpsters and the barrels that are given out. It's very important. And so I'm asking Board if they would please put that on the agenda and have a public hearing on this issue.
I'm not sure what.
I think what the issue is that there have been certain properties over the years that, although they are not what you would consider residential properties, have been grandfathered. And this goes back to before 1972 on trash removal. There has been some concerns that Selectwoman Hull brought to me, a discussion of the board. Remember, it was the old Board of Public Works that is no longer in effect since the charter changed, that really all these grandfatherings came under at that time. So I think it's something that this board may want to have a discussion on and have public people talk about it. Phyllis was very adamant, she didn't want to just make a decision here without having public participation. Maybe it's a public hearing, maybe it's not, I don't know, to town council,
Right.
maybe we don't need to
That was my
advertise it
question.
that way.
What
Maybe
happened
the
is
board
that,
could let that.
you know,
Sure.
we have lots of people that are getting, the rule is, I think, if you have 6 apartments, you have to have a dumpster. But what has happened is we have plenty of people in town with more than 6 apartments, and they're getting barrels, 3, 4, 5, 6 barrels. We are paying for that. I mean, if the ruling is 6 apartments and a dumpster, and there are many people in town have dumpsters, and they should be having dumpsters. And people are coming to me with that, and there's a whole list of names, and I think it's up for discussion, and I think somebody should come. I feel very strongly about it, but the people that have approached me should have the opportunity to come in and speak on this issue.
Sure, my question is, there's a difference between public hearing and public participation. So public participation
Well, I
still
think we
allows them
probably have to have a
speak.
public hearing, because there will probably be a change. Because this thing about grandfathering from, and I don't think you can grandfather this type
No,
of
that-
thing.
In the future, perhaps, Betsy.
Yeah, following along with what Phyllis said,
Right.
if I could just make a suggestion, could, through you, Madam Chairman, Steve, could you go to Rick Stinson and get a list of the buildings in this town?
I already have that
You
list.
have that list, so that we can all have it, number one, and have it verified that they do not in fact have this, and why they do not, yada, yada, yada. With the difference between the public participation and what you would like, Phyllis, naturally with public participation by our own rule and our own bylaws, there'll be no interaction. We're just gonna listen to people either complain or praise, which I doubt, but, on this issue, but there'll be no interaction. But I think the proper procedure, and Tommy could probably tell me better, would be to request through the chairman who sets the agenda to schedule a public hearing. But can we vote on a public night is my question, since it's not on the agenda. Can we set a public hearing? That's the only thing.
I think it's important to distinguish what we mean by a public hearing from an open meeting.
Right.
You always meet in an open meeting, even if it's only to vote then to go into executive session. But a public hearing is something where there's a statute or a bylaw that requires that notice be given to the public, either through publication or through mail or both, and that the public has a right to participate by speaking. Now, you are always, here there is no such statute.
Right.
Okay, so there is no, it is technically not right to speak of this as a public hearing in the same sense that the planning board has a public hearing on a subdivision. However, you are always free at any open meeting to create such publicity as you like for the subject you're going to discuss in the hope that the public comes, and you are free to have the chair entertain from the public. So I think that if I understand Phyllis's concern properly, the motion might be to schedule this as a discussion item at a future meeting, and to vote now that the chair will be asked to allow public participation.
Discourse, sure.
Right.
Does that satisfy you, Phyllis? So
Yeah, that would be fine.
So that
And-
there can be some give and take, controlled give and take with discussion, but it's not a public hearing.
Right. I think this is very important, because I know Mr. Sardella is here from the item, and I know a week or so ago, he wrote a wonderful article about the trash. Now, remember, I was one of the people that didn't want the trash barrel. I spoke about it at town meeting, and because a lot of people came to me and asked me about that. And so when we had time, I contacted people, I made phone calls, they wanted to know when it was gonna happen. I mean, the DPW and Mr. Stinson did a great job, they gave all the information, but they didn't show up, so they lost, right? I mean, so they got what they deserved, but in the meantime, I got what I didn't deserve. And I don't want that to happen here, because there is a really good, legitimate reason for some changes to be made. So I would appreciate that.
Are you making a motion, Phyllis, to have this as a discussion agenda item at one of our future meetings going through the chair?
I would like to have it at our next meeting, if possible.
I will second your motion.
Any discussion on the motion?
Just a question, Steve. So if a six-family home that doesn't need relief, so it doesn't go through either the planning board, the zoning board, or whatever, just gets granted a permit somehow, what's the mechanism for, are our departments, does the Jack know to tell them you need a dumpster instead of?
Yes, what has happened, unfortunately, in a lot of these instances, is that these buildings that were 4 families at one time became 6 families, and I know that, surprise, surprise, sometimes permits weren't pulled and what have you, when these things happen, and.
Those people should
But it's beyond that, it's a long time, it's in the 70s in many instances. And it
Yeah.
just was continued on then.
So we're considering those people.
Right, so
grandfathered?
trash was always removed because maybe they were a 4-family in the 70s, and maybe they were, said, yeah, we'll continue to pick up your trash, even though we know there are 6 or more units there.
So you don't think we have any recourse on any of those?
I think that the House sets policy on trash removal, and that's something that we're looking at.
And make them comply?
Yeah.
Good.
Just real quick on that, I'll stay on the same thing. When we passed this trash removal, we only spoke about families, 2-family, 3-family, 4-family. It was never mentioned about apartments.
Because, yeah.
Well,
There's a
Right, but it's per family, it's not per apartment. Always dumpsters. We never discussed.
Right, I think that's what Phyllis's point is, that some of them are not.
We
Right.
never discussed providing barrels for anything that was classified as an apartment.
Right, and I think-
Rick was here
Right,
specifically
and I
said
think
that.
in defense of the DPW department is
Yes.
that under what they thought, and in modern times here, that it may have been a 4-family
Granted,
in many instances.
No, that's fine.
So then when they went out there and said, you get your 4 buckets,
They said there were 6.
they said, well, wait a minute, this is, well, too bad, you're still only getting 4.
How many meter
That's all you
sockets?
should be.
Are we only giving them 4?
We're only giving them 4, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Another thing too is that this is no guarantee that we're gonna know about any apartments that may have gone from 4 to 6.
Right,
Right.
This
yeah.
trash-
many
There's
meter
no
sockets?
guarantee,
Yes, I know, yeah.
no guarantee whatsoever,
That's right.
Exactly.
you know, but it's a start.
Yeah.
But, who's to say? I don't know.
Thank you.
Well, I guess it's, I don't know for sure perfectly, but in a ruling, however it came about, that if you had anything with 6 apartments in it, you had to have a dumpster. And there are people coming to me who see these places with 6 apartments, and they don't have a dumpster. They have 4 barrels left there. And then but the other people that are following the rules, they have to pay for a dumpster and pay for that. It isn't fair to them. And we, the taxpayers, pay for those barrels, whereas the people that have these 6 or more apartments, they're collecting the rent, whatever, they should be responsible for the trash. That's how I feel.
So we need to vote on Betsy's motion, seconded by Tiz. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Phyllis. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Nothing, thank you.
Nothing right now. Thank you.
Nothing tonight.
Bonus night.
No, thank you.
Super quickly, I noticed that at CVS you can buy the overflow bags, the orange
Yes.
DPW, and that, I was very excited when I saw that, so, same price.
It's amazing what can excite people nowadays.
You know, it goes
You
to
can
show
get an
how
overflow
exciting
bag.
my life is. I saw the overflow bags and I was
That's
very
right.
excited by those at CVS. And just finally to echo what folks had said, I think we talk about Steve being so fiscally responsible, which he absolutely is, but the balance that and looking to the future and trying to build Wakefield and be creative with our finances in a fiscally responsible way is unique to the communities around us, so kudos.
Move to adjourn.
Oh, how about Steve? Do you have anything to say?
I'm
I
good.
think he said
I'm
enough
good.
tonight.
I said enough.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm following the lead here.
I second,
Pat,
Pat's.
seconded by Betsy, all in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Great job.